The old e-commerce growth playbook was simple: spend more, create more, and push harder. But today, brands are facing higher customer acquisition costs, fragmented channels, and customers who expect everything to feel effortless. And today, we're talking with Lynn Power about the new growth playbook, partnerships, fewer customer touch points, and how AI powered marketing how AI is powering marketing reach. Welcome to Beyond the Cart. And Lynn, thank you for joining us. We're excited to have you on the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm sure it'll be a very interesting conversation.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. So give us a little bit of background, Lynn, of how you got involved in e-commerce and marketing, and just a brief history about yourself.
Sure. Well, I spent almost 30 years in the advertising industry. So I was building other people's brands. And in 2018, I kind of had this moment of, wait a minute, why am I doing all this work for everyone else? At least if I'm tortured, I can be torturing myself. So I ended up leaving, and then I launched Masami, which is clean premium hair care, at New York Fashion Week in February of 2020, so a month before COVID. And then I launched another business later that year called Il de Nature, which is a luxury bee-powered home fragrance. And then in 2022, I launched a collective of indie brands that's still going. And we'll talk about that because that's one of the experiments in my playbook.
Love it. Awesome. Well, we can definitely dive right in. I think one of the things that you wanted to add to the playbook was partnerships, and specifically how strategic partnerships are a growth lever. So why do you feel like strategic partnerships are becoming more important for brands that can't simply outspend competitors on paid media, right? So it's like, if you have enough money, like you can just kind of spend. But what I think you're advocating for is sort of like, think about it differently, how to be sort of strategic in your approach.
And I would say even the large brands are doing partnerships these days. Collabs are all over the place. But especially if you're a small brand, it's a really, really good tool in your arsenal for growth, because you're essentially borrowing someone else's customer base and audience and reach and exposure. And when you don't have a lot of money to spend to buy it, essentially, then this is a really good way to do it. So our collective has about 50 indie beauty and wellness brands, and we do a lot of co-marketing. We do pop-ins, which is basically retail activations, but we also do like a shop small campaign. We do a digital magazine. We do all sorts of stuff. And the thing is, when each of you is promoting whatever it is, the magazine, the promotion, then you're getting the benefit of reaching all those audiences and potential customers who, if you're strategic about who you partner with, hopefully will be interested because it's a similar ethos to the brand who found them to begin with.
Love that. So you mentioned brand collaborations. What are some other types of potential sort of partnerships in that space? Maybe like influencers. How do you sort of differentiate between maybe sort of brand collaborations, which could be like you mentioned, brand A and brand B collaborating together? Maybe how influencers play into that. Just walk us through maybe some ideas around the different types.
Yeah, I mean, obviously influencers is sort of a kind of a have to do these days.
Sure.
Whether you call it UGC, influencers, whatever, it's all sort of, from as far as I'm concerned, cut from the same cloth. But you can do partnerships with also, retail events, retail, salons, wellness centers. We have a vitamin infusion center that we do things with. Yoga studios, you can find essentially adjacencies to your business, and people can be offering service-based, things, not necessarily products, and that works too. We have someone that does aura readings that we partner with.
Nice.
And, so I think if you just took a few minutes and really thought about what are my customers interested in, what else is in the world, and yes, there are other things you're interested in besides your products, then you'll come up with a whole list of ideas of potential partners. And, it could be as simple as an email exchange. It could be an event. It could be some type of activation. There's so many things you could do. The sky is the limit. And if you're not really doing a lot of like in-person or IRL stuff, you can do what we do is we actually give out samples of other clean beauty brands when somebody orders Masmi. So if you place an order on our website, you're going to get a sample from the Power Beauty Collab, which is a great way for those other brands to sample their products to a willing audience. And it's also added value for me, because when you're on a lot of marketplaces like we're on Amazon, we're on Ulta.com, we're on Target.com, we're on Walmart.com, we're on Nordstrom.com. It's nice to be able to offer customers that come to you direct a little bit more, because, I have their data. It's easier for me to understand people that are coming right to my website when they're buying off of those other places. Yeah, I have their name, I have their address. That's pretty much it.
Yeah, for sure. So, I find I tell clients this all the time. It's like you really need to give, especially if you're multi-channel or you're omni-channel, like you describe, you need to give someone a very compelling reason to come to your website and purchase from you. Because without it, there's like, why not go to Amazon and buy it? I mean, it's going to be priced pretty close to the same, and they already know, like, and trust it, and they know the return policy. They have their credit card on file. They're buying all their other stuff there. So you have to come up with a pretty compelling reason. So I love that idea. You're like, hey, I'm going to give you a little bit more sample of this entire sort of ecosystem that we've created around it. And that's a cool way to sort of carve out the uniqueness that you can't do on another channel.
And like I said, it kind of works for everyone, because the customer's happy, my partner's happy, I'm happy, like everyone wins in that world. Now, having said that, I have no problem with somebody buying from Amazon or Target or Nordstrom or any of those places, because I do think you have to be realistic about the fact that you got to be where customers are. And some people want to fight that battle, and it's just, it's an uphill battle. Like, you're not going to really win that, because to your point, I shop on Amazon. I actually think Amazon is great for small businesses. I know people love to hate on it, but I am happy about Amazon. And
I've made a lot of money on Amazon, so I'm not complaining.
Yeah, and I think, like, yes, there's a lot to the algorithm, but honestly, it's one of the very few places that small businesses can jump on with a very low barrier to entry and figure it out. And I never hired an Amazon agency. I kind of got in there and rooted around and figured it out. And this past year, my business has just been growing a lot. And I think it's a little bit of like feeding the beast. The better you do in there, the better you do. You know what I mean? It's like,
it's a flywheel. It's a flywheel. So the more you can sort of gain sales velocity, then you get more exposure organically, which then drives that review count up higher. And it just sort of basically it just grows. Yeah. 100%.
So that's why I'm like, if you want to buy an Amazon, go for it. Like, I don't, so it's a little tricky, because I sound like I'm talking out of both sides of my mouth, but I do think you kind of have to think of the different channels and try to figure out how to make them work for you.
For sure. And, and I've even advocated, it was like, you don't have to necessarily treat Amazon or another retail or distribution partner exactly the same as your website either. Like, you could have a product strategy that's unique to Amazon, right? That maybe you have products that are on your website that are unique to your site, right? Like, you don't necessarily like, but if you have a hero product that you're like, man, I really just want distribution of this product to grow the brand, to grow awareness, then plaster it everywhere, go deep, go hard, like really push it. But maybe there are other products you're like, you know what? This is more of like a AOV builder. Or I want to keep this one because I love the margin on it, right? And I really want people to come to me to get it. So there's ways you can nuance and structure your catalog to kind of facilitate that distribution.
Sorry, my dog.
Yeah, you're good.
Nice.
You're good. So that brings me to like another thought then around that. So it's like we talked about partnerships. What is one way in which you think about it from a strategic partnership versus maybe a one-off promotion? Maybe it's somebody that's like, hey, I'm just doing a one-off sort of promotional strategy versus sort of like, no, this is a strategic partnership. Do you make any distinction when you're
Um,
thinking through that?
yeah, sometimes if it's something that I have a category or a brand that I don't really know very well, we'll do sort of a trial run. We'll do something
Mm-hmm.
smaller to see, like, is it going to work? Is it a good fit? And that works well. And I just think you got to plant a lot of seeds and you got to experiment a ton.
Yeah.
And that's one of the ways you can experiment is like, maybe I'm not going to include their product to my customers because I'm not totally sure, about their
Yeah, you're
product,
not sold.
but I might do a shop small campaign and include them in that. And if they're a good partner and they share it out and they contribute
Mm-hmm.
and it works for everybody, great. The problem that I have is a lot of people want to sign on and do stuff, but they don't want to actually contribute.
Right. They don't do any work.
Right. They just kind of like, okay, here's our logo. And you're like, no, you
Right.
actually have to send, and I always
Yeah.
am very clear. Like if you're going to join our campaign, and we usually get about 20 brands when we do these shop small campaigns, this is what is required, mandatory.
Yeah.
You have to send out 2 emails. You have to post it on your social. And then we're like 2 weeks in the campaign and nobody sent out an email.
To chase them
And
down. It
it's
is
tough
like
because like,
influencer marketing.
yeah, so that is tricky. And I also don't want to have to be the police. You know what I mean? I have enough on my plate.
Yeah,
I don't want to have
for
to be the
sure.
person being like, you didn't do it. But I do make a mental note. And if somebody kind of didn't bother lifting a finger and they
Mm-hmm.
just reap the benefits, because usually we'll attach a giveaway and I'll do like an email capture. So
Mm-hmm.
there's a CSV file of leads. I'm
Yep.
not going to send you the leads. You know what I mean? Like, so it
You're
can
off
be a
the
little,
island.
you kind of get
It's
voted
like
off.
Survivor. Yeah, you get
Yeah,
voted off
you kinda
voted off the
do.
island.
You kind of get voted off. So it's a little tricky because, there's certain people that if I've worked with them before and I know like, okay, they usually are good. And this time they must have had a lot going on. I try to give people grace because we all have
Mm-hmm.
shit. And we all know.
Sure. Yeah.
But there are other times when I'm like, okay, you literally did nothing and you expected to get all this stuff.
Yep.
So be a good partner. I like David's comment there. Yes. So if
Yep.
you're joining somebody for some of these things, just be mindful of that because even though you may not be leading it, you still have to like carry your weight because if you don't, guess what? They're not going to want to have you included again. And you don't want a bad reputation among other founders that, yeah, this founder is sort of a deadbeat, you know?
Absolutely. No, 100%. I think strategic partnerships are a massive opportunity, right? And they're not as widely, I don't think, embraced in terms of like overall strategy for many brands. I mean, you're obviously doing it at a great level and kind of executing it. What would you say? How would you invite brands to get started with thinking about strategic partnerships? Like, what would be your like 0, this is where we would start, this is what I would do this week to implement
Yeah.
building strategic partnerships in my brand?
I mean, the first thing is to find the right partners.
Yeah.
For me, we launched right before COVID. And so it was one of the things that I was like, well, I'm in New York City. I was at the time. Now I'm in California. But I was like, well, I can't get into the salons. Retail's closed. Let me reach out to some of the brands that I knew just from being a
Mm-hmm.
founder in New York City and see if they want to do something. So that's sort of how it started. And then when we started doing stuff, and I'm like, wow, the ROI is really good on this. We're spending almost nothing. We're getting new customers. How can I scale it? That was my next thought.
Yeah.
So what ended up happening was I actually got breast cancer in 2021, which was a year after I launched Masami. I had an aggressive stage 3, very rare breast cancer and had to have a full year of treatment of dealing with that. The silver lining with that is that it forces you to evaluate your life, your priorities, and all that. And
100%.
that was kind of the aha for me that made me realize, well, wait a minute, why am I doing all this like paid media that doesn't really work? When I could be doing stuff that has a really high ROI, and I actually enjoy working with other founders. So
Yeah.
Anyway, to answer your question though, is start with people in your network. If you literally don't have any other founders in your network, find some. I mean, I'm sure you can find some through LinkedIn,
Yeah,
reach
sure.
out to people. You'd be
Absolutely.
surprised how many people ping me. And I'm like, yeah, sure. Happy to chat. And then approach everything with a spirit of generosity.
I love
You
it.
know what I mean? Don't approach things
Mhm.
as like, okay, what am I going to get out of this? Even with
Right.
now doing these, we do a lot of pop-ups with the collab. When a founder starts to grind me about, well, how much traffic is this spa getting? And what I'm like, okay, this isn't good. It's not a good fit. I'm doing
it's
this.
it's it's the Simpson meme backing into the hedges, right? Where you're like,
Yeah.
back away, back
Yeah.
away.
I'm like, if you're not getting the gist of what this is all about, and I'm one person doing this, I'm not
Yeah.
counting the traffic in the stores. I mean, come on. Like, but I
Right.
have founders all the time that do that, and they just don't get that this is like, it's not meant to be like me working for you. It's meant to be a
Yeah.
collaborative and a collective of people that are helping each other. And so I think if you approach it with the right spirit, you'll attract the right
Sure.
partners. And that I think is hugely important,
Love
because
that.
if you don't, you're not going to be happy. And then you're going to go, God damn it,
Yeah.
Lynn told me to do this.
Lynn told me to do it, and now I am really annoyed. Yep.
Yes.
No,
So
I agree. I agree. So no, I think it comes down to like, what are your boundaries? Understand what you're willing to do, what you're going to hold people accountable to do, and then just be very, very clear with that at the onset of it. It's like, this is what we're going to do. This is what your expectation is. If you
yes.
can't agree to this upfront now, then let's part as friends, and we'll go from there. But I mean, I think that becomes the biggest thing that I've seen. Is like, there's just the clarification of roles and
Yeah.
responsibilities, and what that actually looks like, and let them know, like, yeah, like, we're gonna follow up with you on this. Like, the expectations you're gonna deliver. If you don't deliver it, you're not in. You're not in moving forward. Like, it's pretty straightforward. It's like, show up, be a part of it, or
Because
it's like, you can obviously, like you said, stuff can happen, and you know to talk to people and about that. But like, at some point, you're going to be who you're going to be, right? And consistency is important, and showing up matters. And I think if you communicate that as a core value, that goes a long way in sort of helping weed out the gimmies, the
yeah,
gimme
I mean,
gimme gimme.
you'd be surprised how many people say that they'll do all this stuff though, and then don't. But what ends up happening, and this is another sort
Yeah.
of group dynamic thing, is that I start getting complaints from other founders about one founder. It's usually one. There's usually like
Oh,
one
there you
bad
go.
apple. And everyone
Yep.
starts piling on, and they're like, this person didn't do this, and this, they did this, and then they made a snarky comment about my brand, and then no. And before you know it, I've got like 5 or 6 people texting me, and I'm like, wait a minute, this is crazy. I do not want to be
Yep.
doing this. And then I basically have to tell that founder, you're out, because it's
Yeah.
like not worth it.
For sure.
So I have had to do that. Let me think, 3 times. I've had
Yeah.
to basically kick a founder out. One of them
It,
begged to get back in. And then I
wow.
felt in a moment of weakness, I took them back.
Wow.
And then same thing ended up happening again. And I was like, I'm the idiot here. Like, I knew that this was, was probably not a smart move, but I ended up
For
having to
sure.
kick them out a second time. So that was enjoyable. But yeah,
Yeah.
save
I
yourself
don't
angst.
envy that.
No, it's like better, but yeah, like but you're right. The more clarity up front, hopefully you can not make my mistakes and not have to do that, because that's not fun.
Yeah. I mean, the benefit too is that you have sort of like this collective community policing component of it as well. It's like, so if you have multiple people that are complaining about the same person in this collective, then
Oh,
where there's smoke, there's fire, kind of, right? So like, you're
yeah.
gonna get signals about that, right?
Exactly. Like when you have a consistent theme and people are like, yeah, this is why, and it's like you're hearing a lot of that, then you're like, okay, this isn't good. And I'm a pretty direct person, if you haven't figured that out by now. I mean, I spent almost 30 years in New York, so I became a New Yorker.
Yeah,
and
for
I'm
sure.
very like, this is why, this is what you did, this is why people are annoyed, because I think if you're not clear with people, they're just going to keep doing it. Now, clearly I got burned.
100%.
I had somebody come back after they apologized profusely and then she still did it. But I think, yes, I think clarity, huge, and just, boy, it's a tough one.
It's almost like you need like net promoter score for inside of the collective. It's like, would you work with this brand again and this founder? And it's like 2. I was like, if you're not a 5, right? Like,
I know.
I love it. No, that's great though. I think that, so going back to that question, it's like, where do you get started? It's like, just start at the beginning, start at your network, think about what your values and who you want to work with, and just really clear expectations. And I think if you can think through what those expectations are and communicate that, that's where you start. And you're going to make mistakes, right? You just have to figure it out and improve as you go.
But then also think about what you're trying to solve. I mean, some people want more Instagram followers. Some people want to grow their email list. Because that's the other thing too. Sometimes I'll be doing something and I'm like, okay, the reason we're doing this is because we're going to grow our email list. And then people are like, why aren't we doing an Instagram giveaway? I'm like, because that's not the objective.
That's not it. Yeah.
That is not what this particular thing is about. So that's important too, because again, if people's wires are crossed, it's clarity. And then the other thing is people have so little time, including me, that they don't always read through all the stuff you send. So you think you're being clear and you're sending them all the, okay, here's all the, they glance at it for 2 seconds,
Yeah.
So anyway,
I was like, make sure that your AI summary is actually communicating to you what you need out of this message and your action items that you're responsible for.
This is like a therapy session for me. This is amazing.
No, this is great. No, it's amazing. Yeah, this is great. Speaking of clarity and getting all the information, that's where conversion matters, right? So let's kind of talk about how we optimize conversion by reducing touch points and customer touch points, because clarity sometimes is a removal of stuff, not necessarily adding more. So let's talk about what do you think? A lot of brands think like the more touch points, the more data equals more shots, more opportunity. But where does that thinking break down from your perspective?
Well, I think if you're just doing slop, tonnage, volume, just because you're like, I got to surround my customer with Masami, it has to be everywhere. The problem is, if it's not really quality or if it's not answering a problem or addressing a concern they have, and you're just throwing it at them to check off the touch points, you're not doing yourself any favors. And you're just spending money and time and effort and creating more content, and you're not doing it to like a goal in sight. So, so one of the things I did, which a lot of e-commerce experts will tell you is not a good thing to do, but there are times when you just have to say you don't care. And I basically now use a social media scheduler tool that I love. It's called Marky, Marky.
Never
Give
heard
them
of
a
it.
shout out. And they will post everywhere. So I will make a post. They do all the AI stuff. So, and they have their AI is very good at writing posts. I don't know what it is, but it's really good. But then you can post on Pinterest, Facebook, Instagram story, TikTok, LinkedIn, Twitter, Snapchat. I mean, you can literally post everywhere. And honestly, so the experts will tell you, you really should be customizing your content for your channel.
Sure.
And there's a point where I say, I'm sorry, if you have a whole team of social media gurus, great. And if you're a bigger brand, awesome. You should be doing that. But if you're a teeny tiny brand and you're like one person doing everything, screw that. Don't listen. Because there's a point where 90% or even 80% or frankly 70% done is better than perfect. And so I'm contradicting myself a little bit, because you don't want to just put crap out there, but I'd rather take the time to make one good post and put it everywhere, even if it's not a perfect fit, than hours trying to tweak for each channel, which I don't have. Does that make sense?
Makes perfect sense. It's like perfect is the enemy of good, right? If good
Yes,
gets you the actual ROI you need, little little classic aphorism there, but like it applies. It's like it's a mental model too of how you approach it, where it's like this is good enough to get me the ROI I need. If I try to squeeze out additional percentage points of perfection, I actually my
yeah,
ROI drops off a cliff because it just doesn't produce, and I'm spending way more time and energy than what I have.
100%. And so I think, so this also applies to like, I stopped doing Facebook ads. That's one of those touch points where I'm like, okay, I'm not
Yeah,
seeing a great ROI from it. I mean, yes, I could be doing lots more versions and lots more testing and like, but I think sometimes you just have to recognize that not every channel works great for every brand.
mhm.
And you're better off focusing on the ones that actually do work. Like Pinterest for me is a much better
Mhm.
ROI than Facebook.
Yeah,
And so I'd rather make sure that I'm covering that one off well because it's driving traffic to my site. And then I can take
mhm.
the traffic that I get from Pinterest and retarget it with this Facebook instead of spending money trying to get, new people from Facebook. So like there are things to
Yep,
try to just simplify that funnel a little bit and also simplify your spend
for sure.
and not feel you have to be spending everywhere, which is what you hear, unfortunately, on a lot of
Yep.
a lot of
Yep.
agencies will tell you you got to spend everywhere and you got to spend
That's
X
well,
amount.
that's because they their billing is based on usually
That's
the
right.
amount of money spent. So of course that their incentive is aligned to basically get you to spend in every single platform and channel, right, as much as possibly can.
I know sometimes people forget that, but me with my agency background, I'm like, I know exactly what you're doing. And
100%.
yeah.
There's a quote from The Hunt for Red October, the movie. And it was like called The Crazy Ivan, where you did like this sudden, sharp, unexpected turn, and how submarines would sort of check the acoustic blind spots behind the engines. And the crazy Ivan, and I think in marketing and advertising, right? Sometimes you got to pull a crazy Ivan and you'd be like, I'm just going to turn off these ads for a bit of time just to actually measure like real world uh impact of what I'm
Yeah.
doing. And if you can see, I mean, you might have attribution dialed in as perfectly as you can, but sometimes it's like, well, if I turn this off, is it really having true impact on my sales, my top of funnel, or whatever impact it is? So sometimes you got to pull a crazy Ivan.
Yeah, I agree. And I think that's actually a really good thing to do. And also sometimes even for your sanity, just because if you're a small business solo founder, you're
Right.
working 24/7.
Yeah.
There's no time off per se. And every now and then I have to remind myself, you know what? Screw it. I'm taking a week and I'm not gonna email or post or do anything this like, and it's okay.
Yeah.
And nobody,
Crazy Ivan.
the business doesn't really, it doesn't really skip a beat. You'd be surprised. Like,
Exactly. And that's really the litmus test, too. It's like, am I doing things because somebody told me I needed to do them? Or am I doing them because they actually matter?
right.
And I think that is really what the core of what you're trying to get to, right? And I think that goes back to that reducing customer touch points, right? Is like, are you doing it because you read a blog somewhere or saw a YouTube video and said you had to do this? Or are you actually testing it, measuring it, and seeing if it has actual real impact, right? So along those lines, what are maybe some most common unnecessary friction points that you've seen in the customer journey in your own brands? I mean, you mentioned Facebook ads, but is there any other sort of like unnecessary friction points that you were like, why, let's stop doing that?
Oh boy. Yeah, definitely Facebook ads. I have to say I stopped doing TikTok.
Interesting. Yeah.
I post on TikTok through Marky, but I don't spend
Mhm.
any time or effort on TikTok because what I found was the customer base on TikTok, and I am doing this is a massive generalization. So I know people are going to
Mhm.
go, that's not the case. But, in beauty, it tends to be brands that have a great demo, whether it's that lip
Mhm.
stain or whatever, something that really telegraphs well. I have
Yep.
hair care products. Like it's
Yeah.
not, it's not that same kind of reveal, if you will.
Right.
Um, so first of all, that there's that dynamic, but then also I find that the customers on TikTok are very price oriented,
For sure.
and they, when you're a premium brand,
It's
you
hard.
might get somebody to try your product on TikTok, but the likelihood of them coming back, like you're spending a lot of time to woo this person and get them to buy, but then you're not getting a lot of loyalty, or you're not getting a lot of repeat.
Mhm.
And um, for me, if the repeat doesn't line up with what I know is true, which is we get about
Mhm.
35% of our customers fall in love and buy more, which sounds low, but in hair care, the average for a hair care brand is 13%.
Pretty good. Yeah, that's pretty
So
good in hair care.
we're like almost 3 times the industry average for hair care. But if I see that on TikTok, it's like 0. That's when you go, you know what? It's not worth it. Why am I?
Yeah.
Because you're doing a lot to it. Think about why you're doing it. You're doing it to attract a new customer.
Right.
You don't want it to be a one-off. You don't want it to be like you're constantly filling the
No.
leak bucket. So if you have channels like that where it's just not the right fit, and I will say Temu also, they had reached out to me and were kind of bugging me to try it, and I did, but it's very similar. If I get a customer, chances are they're not coming back. They got it because they had a coupon, a discount code, something, but it's not sustainable. Oh, I think Kyle's frozen. Oops. Kyle, you there? All right. We'll see what happens. But I think he got a little frozen. All right. Let's give him a minute to see if he comes back on. Okay, I'm back, but no Kyle. Okay, so we're going to keep talking. So the new topic here, using AI tools to increase marketing reach and frequency. So I use a lot of AI tools. If you probably could tell from the earlier conversation, Marky being my social media scheduler, which does a lot in AI and is actually really good at AI. But I do a lot to minimize my production and my content. So obviously Canva's a go-to. I use an email provider called Seguno, which is a little different. And they plug right into Shopify, and they use some AI helpers as well to be able to get my emails. They're so easy. That's what I love. It's like I want tools that are so easy. So what AI tools? So, oh my God, I have tried so many AI tools, and some of them that I've tried, in fact, many of them that I've tried are not even in business anymore. So I have to actually pull my list up of the ones that actually still are in business, because I don't want to give you a list of partners and then you can't even use them. So, okay. So some of them, and I'm not sure, but Pixie, Pixii, love that. And they're great for Amazon images, for hero images. So definitely check that out. I think they have a little free trial thing too. So you can just check it out and try to, you can just put in your ASIN. You literally plug in your ASIN and it'll make some images for you. So that's a cool one. Tolstoy. I've been using Tolstoy for the last maybe 3 years. I met them at Shop Talk, and they we're really all about UGC video content that lives on your site. And you can tag it to your products, and you can create a carousel on your homepage, and you can do all sorts of cool stuff with it. And now they've gotten much deeper into AI, so they can do all sorts of AI videos for you also, including AI presenters. I have not found an AI presenter that I love yet. It's one thing to do AI that is clearly AI, like, because my product is all about weightless hydration, I do a lot of like underwater people swimming in AI. And I feel like, maybe I'm talking to myself, but I feel like that's more acceptable because it's clearly known that that's what it is. When it's an AI presenter who's supposed to be human and is something else just a little off, I don't know. I'm not loving that. So I have not really found that yet. Let's see. I also use, oh my gosh, there's so many here. ImGen, I've used Dolly, I've used Workmagic, Trend, Lumi, C-Lab. Who else? Flare. I think Flare may not be in business. I'm not 100% sure. FreePick, Kriya. So those are just a few, but there's so many good ones. And how do you increase marketing reach? Oh God, that's a big one. But yeah, I think the first step is just when you experiment with all these AI tools, obviously there's a lot it can do. One is, I'm talking about content generation, and that's both image generation and copy generation. And Claude is great for copy. And, you know, even ChatGPT is gotten a lot better for images. But blog posts, that's another thing. Thought leadership, you know, that's a really good way to increase marketing reach as well. Podcasts. I mean, there's so many things you can do, and AI can help you with all of that. It can literally write your blog post for you. It can give you a list of potential podcasts. I even have an AI service now that I use. It's called Alfie, and they do outreach to potential partners, whether that's an influencer, a salon, an affiliate, whoever. And they do those, send me leads every day, and I just literally click yes, 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 and it emails them for me. It's unbelievable. The amount of manual labor that we used to do that was extraordinary. So in what ways do you help beauty brands? Well, I don't really help beauty brands, just to be clear. I have my own brand that I'm doing it for. I help beauty brands through the collab, but in that case, it's more like I'm sharing the stuff I'm doing. I'm not necessarily like coaching them. But I am a big advocate of podcasts and doing things like this, because the more you can get out there, and I know a lot of people are uncomfortable being on camera. You got to just get over it. Like, no one cares. Just get over it. But I think the more you can be out there sharing your brand, your story, the more you're going to have people recognize you, the more you're going to get traction. And by the way, all of people listening, whether it's Kyle or Jesse or David, you all have hair. You can all be using Masami. So even if it seems like I'm not talking to an audience, it's a clean beauty audience, it's actually, you'd be surprised. And I've been on probably now over 250 podcasts since we launched. It's pretty easy to find them. I get a lot of people that reach out to me now. I don't really do a lot of outbound, requests myself anymore. But I still get orders from people that are like, I heard you on this podcast 3 years ago, and they place an order. Now, the thing about the podcast, the more you can close the attribution link, the better, or loop, the better, which is one way to do it is to create a discount code that's tied to that podcast, so that if somebody does order, you know that it came from the podcast. So not all of them want you to do that or will let you do that. But if they do, that's a really good way to at least connect the dots. Otherwise, sometimes it feels a little bit like a black hole. But most of these podcasts don't charge anything. So you kind of also have to decide what's an hour of your time worth, and also do your homework on the podcast. Does it look like it's the right audience? Does it look like they get a decent amount of downloads? all that kind of stuff. But I think you'd be surprised how many podcasts would be relevant. And also they're evergreen. Once you're on a podcast, there's this phenomenon where people will stumble across a podcast and they'll go back and listen to like all these old episodes. And I do that too when I find one that I like. And so when you're on one, even if it is 2 or 3 years ago, believe it or not, people will find it. And before you know it, it's just a good way for also the search engines these days to have other things to find about you. So yeah, I would say podcasts are good. Guest posts on other people's blogs. Those are also good on digital magazines, whatnot. A lot of times they would love to have guest articles, guest posts. That's another thing you can do. Press, you can also try to get some earned media. It's not that easy because a lot of it does feel like very pay to play, but you can work that angle as well. How are you using AI tools to increase frequency? Well, I think it's really about being able to have a consistency in how you're posting and how much you're posting. And when you're able to up the volume, and not volume of hopefully lower tier creative, but like, you're able to get stuff out there. That's I think one of the other benefits is just consistency. Because a lot of times you'll start and you'll be really happy with what you're doing, and then life intervenes and you have, a few weeks, and then it's like you're starting over. So I definitely recommend using a scheduler if you can. That has helped me a lot because it used to be like a chore where I'd be like, oh, what am I going to post today? And oh my God. And then I also post on 3 channels. I post on Masami, I post on Power Beauty Collab, and I post on Il de Nature. And it would take me like 2 hours. And so now what I do is I carve out like a Sunday once a month, and I just jam, and I just get a ton of posts scheduled. And then I feel like I don't have to think about it for a while. So I do think that helps. Okay. How do you convert customer e-commerce growth with AI tools and marketing reach? Well, I think the tools and marketing reach are a means to the end, which is growth. So it's all part of the same thing. And, people can't buy you if they don't know you. And people need to know more than your name, and they need to know why it's important, why it's relevant, what your values are. I don't necessarily agree with people that have a whole thing about the founder needs to be front and center. Some brands, yes, but I do think there are brands where maybe that's not so helpful. But I think it really is about familiarity with your brand. I mean, why do you think there are so many large irrelevant brands are still in business? It's just, you start to think about brands and you use, and they tend to be the name brands that spend a lot and that have been around for a long time. There are exceptions, of course, but for the most part. So yeah, I think it really is about showing up and grinding it out and consistency and using AI to help you, because you can be so much more productive. And then using partnerships to keep expanding. And hopefully when you do all that, you will start to see some traction and start to see some repeat purchases. Because again, the repeat is really important. That's really one of the only numbers I look at, because you don't want to be spending all your time and effort filling a leaky bucket. Very few businesses can sustain that unless your idea is you're just going to grow really fast, hockey stick, and sell your business and make it someone else's problem. But very few businesses can actually do that. So I would say think about what it takes to not just get somebody, but to keep someone. And that's sometimes a harder thing. People are very fickle. They have attention spans less than a goldfish these days. So you have to be constantly putting yourself in a consumer's shoes, and you have to be thinking about that. How do you balance volume with authenticity? Yeah, that's a hard one. I mean, sometimes I do sometimes sacrifice a little authenticity just to get stuff out. But I think part of it is making sure things do have your voice still and are on your brand. I'm going back to my Marquee tool. That AI tool really understands my brand ethos. And so I do feel like when you're using a tool that sort of learns and is trained and improves over time, that's gold, because now I feel like it knows my voice better than I do practically. And I think for an average consumer, they wouldn't really know the difference of what is authentic and what isn't, because it's coming from the same voice. And that's the gold, and that's what you want to try to get to. So I would say if you can find a tool like that, and some people train their own tools, or they build their own bots, or they, so it doesn't have to be a plug and play system. You can kind of do whatever works for you. But the key is to really have it understand your brand. How did you train it? So, okay, so this is the interesting thing with Marquee, is they have it like built in so that it trains itself every couple months and gets smarter. And it will ask me, hey, you seem to like all your hashtags together at the end like this. Should we make that part of your rules moving forward? I say yes. So I have to do almost no training. It's like it's training itself. It's just recognizing what I'm fixing, and then it's making it into more of a standardization. So to me, that is really good AI, because I didn't have to spend a lot of time getting it up to speed, and it's taking the feedback I'm giving it, and it's building on it and building on it and building on it to the point where now it's like 99% good. Now it'll do something and I have almost no edits. I'm like, this is like, I couldn't have written it better. And it did it in 2 seconds. It would have taken me about 20 minutes to write that.
That's the goal. I'm back.
Welcome back.
Sorry, everyone. Yeah, I complete hard crash of everything. So it was a full reboot.
Oh, lucky you.
That's always fun. Welcome to live streaming, where things can technically go wrong at any time. Awesome. So we're on AI tools. I love it. Thanks for holding down the fort, Lynn, and just teaching everybody. So that's super cool.
Just swinging it.
Love it. I love it. So talking about AI, I caught the end where it's like optimizing with Marquee, and that's cool. Where do you see sort of AI creating the biggest practical advantage for marketers right now?
I mean, for me, it's such an equalizer for small businesses, because we can do very premium, high quality looking content for almost no cost. And, I go back to my advertising days when we used to shoot Joe Pitka commercials. People probably don't know who that is, but a very expensive director. And they would be like $2 million for a 30-second commercial.
Yeah.
Okay. And then you started doing, digital and print and whatnot. And a website would cost $100,000. And, and it's just, but production has just gotten squeezed down to the point where, like I said, I can do something that looks like photorealistic, high quality photography that costs nothing. It's crazy. And I think it sucks to be a photographer right now. I will say that.
True.
Because unless you have a real distinct style or point of view, boy, people are just not going to pay your rate to get that anymore. Unless it's like, I was going to say, unless it's like self-portraits, but even then I could take AI and make a bunch of great pictures,
Absolutely. No, I think it is definitely a challenge for photographers, creatives, graphic designers, right? I think that there's got to be this sort of leveling up and them thinking more strategically, just not from the creative standpoint. And it's the reality of AI.
I use AI to because I'm not a coder, but I know enough to be dangerous. But if I need something done on my website, I'll say to the AI, can you make me a before and after sliding?
Yeah.
And it did. It literally told me the code. I drop the code in, it works perfectly. Like there's crazy stuff. And so
100%.
I mean, and this is,
Just,
I feel like we're just at the tip of the iceberg.
well, yeah, absolutely the tip. I was actually just talking with my team today because we're kind of shifting our tech stack, and we're moving our entire like primary website to a code only deployment, right? There is no like WYSIWYG visual editor piece of it. It only is edited through GitHub, straight deployment to the website, and it's all being managed through like Claude Code or Cursor. And that's just the nature of it. It's like design is going to happen. You can still use like Figma or whatever to kind of lay it out, but you can just use the AI to even do the design once you feed it the right parameters. So all the coding and infrastructure is just being built on the fly.
Yeah. Yeah, it's crazy. Yeah, no, I've seen examples of people building websites in 5 minutes that look unbelievable with AI.
Yeah, I mean, I did a complete mock-up of a new, like, so I didn't like, we do a lot with like Shopify, and so I had a new Shopify build, but what the secret to it was I actually had AI do a deep level research into that particular category, right? And then apply and do the research around best practices, conversion optimization that we already laid in. So it's like factor this in, but go look at like really great examples of UX design, right? What's leading the market. Yeah. So go do all that research. Now compare it to the current site. Okay, now go do that. So it was basically came down with 2 markdown files, right? For AI. And so that I just stuck in the project folder. And then I went into Claude Code and be like, now build me a mock-up. It can be HTML mock-up, doesn't have to be in like Shopify, but just build me a mock-up based on this research. Here's the image directory, here's the logo, and go build it. And I put it in auto mode. So if you're using Claude Code, you want to have auto mode, you'll be able to go to that. So you don't have to sit there and hit the button to approve every single decision it has to make, especially if you're doing something on your local machine. And walked away, went to the other side, came back probably, I don't know, an hour later. Up on my browser was the mock-up of the new site. All of the creative decisions it had made, it had picked the images, it did everything, and it was like completely clickable. Like I basically like build all of the pages, the sub pages that you would be in the template. And I was like, this is great. So then I was like, okay, well, what is the best Shopify theme for this particular mock-up? And it went through and did an analysis and bring me in. So then I went to my actual developer and designer and be like, I want this theme. Here's the mock-up. And then I just uploaded the whole thing to like a free HTML, because you can basically have the entire project folder, right? You just throw it into like a free hosting and they could access it right on the web. And I was like, this is the mock-up, play around with it, go build it. And so then they were going in and build it. Now I played around with like connecting it to like Shopify and the GitHub, and you can do some of that stuff. There's still some nuance still. And I think as Shopify rolls out more AI integrations, you'll be able to do more, but there's still like product like things you have to do like in the back end manually that you can't just necessarily hand it off to like an AI. But the entire mock-up was, it basically cut out, I would say probably at least a week of back and forth interaction. It's like, okay, the designer is going to do that. And then it's like, they're going to come back and I'm not going to like it. I just basically fed it all of my parameters into it beforehand and let it do it. And then now I was like, go build this and put it in Shopify. And that's what they're almost done. That's so it basically amazing. Was just a really cool outcome. And that's kind of where it's going, even from the dev side.
Yeah, but I think even for people that are not coders like me, like we can I can even do it. It's kind of crazy. So I did a little bit of coding like way back in the day, but like not enough. I mean, not enough to be considered. I mean, not enough. Like I'm not going to be able to do it. But then I was literally on a call with a client, and we were like, oh, this doesn't have like a native built-in, like they were using like Shopify's like native messaging, because they're like trying to launch something as lean as possible. And they're like, I don't want to pay for Klaviyo. And it's like, yeah, don't yet. Like go use the free 10,000 email subscribers in Shopify. Or the 10,000 emails you can send. Yeah. But like, we need a pop-up for it. I was like, well, that's great. Let's go code that out. And so I just basically jumped into Claude Code,
built it all out, pasted it into the Shopify instance they were using, and it worked flawlessly right out of the gate immediately.
Wow.
And I was like, there you go. Now it's done. They're like, wait, how did you do that? And I was like, well, I had already had Claude up and running, and then I just copy and pasted it. And we built it and connected it to your theme. And it was like, done. And it built in all of like the you know how like like a lot of the pop-up tools that have like exclusions and inclusions for pages, it built it all into it. So you could basically like exclude this for blog posts, or only put this particular pop-up on the collection pages, or however you wanted to do it, right? And it built it all and framed it all within there and was ready to go.
Unbelievable.
It was crazy.
It is crazy.
So on that, we're gonna wrap up here, I think, because I obviously don't want to take any more time. But what do you feel like AI should handle, and what do you think should still stay very human? Because I do think that there's this interesting conversation with brands, like how do you maintain that human connection, and where do you sort of draw the line with your perspective versus human versus AI components in the business?
Well, I will put on my hat as that's a customer hat, not as a founder hat. And I will tell you, customer service, oh my God, please do not give me AI customer service. I hate it. I hate it. I hate it. I cannot say that enough. Trying to get prescriptions out of CVS, good luck. Good luck. So I'd say like that to me, somebody has to figure out a way for it to still be humans. Be scalable and affordable, but like AI is the worst. So that is one area, because if you have anything that does not fit the script, it's like you just, and most of the time if you're calling, it's because you couldn't get an answer based on the stuff you could find. So it's like you need to talk to somebody. So it's like that is one area that I'm like absolutely not. The other area that it's gonna get there, but it's not there yet, in my opinion, is on things like operationally, like finances, doing your sales tax, like I asked that Shopify's AI just to see if it could do it, to summarize all of my California transactions for Q1 so that I could do my tax. Now I had already done it, so I knew it gave me the wrong amount. And when I said no, shouldn't it be da 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 da? And it said, oh yeah, you're right. It should be that. And it was off by several $1,000s.
Yeah, you have to check it.
But like that to me, like how can AI not do math? Explain that to me.
Like, that's a great question.
You know what I'm saying? Like, that should be something that would be like low-hanging fruit for AI. It's like being able to add up all these transactions and give me a total. No, it can't do it.
Yeah, that is hallucination at its core. I think it's one of the benefits of like Shopify's AI is a little bit, it's a little sketchy, right? And I think it'll get better, I hope, over time. But that's one of the nice things about sort of the MCP, which is basically like like APIs is the classic way that data gets transferred between software, right? So the MCP basically is just a protocol that allows tools like Claude and ChatGPT and all these to interact with that data. And so Shopify just recently opened up their MCP server. So now you can connect it to a little bit more sophisticated AI LLM models, but it all still comes down to context, right? So do you know exactly what transactions are going to be included for the California in total? Is there anything that is excluded for that? Does California require shipping costs to be included into that number? Are there any exemptions for that, right? And all of that context sort of has to be fed into it in order to keep it from hallucinating. Make sure you double check that your numbers match up to order counts.
Your numbers, boy. Don't assume that should be an easy AI task. Nope. Because people think it's more the creative things that AI can't do. And it's, but it's kind of the opposite, I'm finding. It actually can do the creative things.
It can do the creative stuff. I think because oftentimes creative requires less constraint. because it's like, oh, I can just go make up whatever I need to. When you talk about like real data, then that's where constraint and context becomes super critical, because if
Yeah.
it doesn't have enough, it's just going to start to hallucinate to give you, because its job is literally give you an answer. Like
I
it
know, but
cannot
it's like,
functionally not do it.
but why can't it say, I don't have enough? You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
why can't it
Well,
ask
I
you
think
to say, like, I'm missing this piece of information, or can you know what I'm saying? Like,
for
instead of
good
making up.
LLMs, you can train it to do that in your
Yeah.
prompt. It's like if you don't have 100% confidence in your data, you have to flag it. It's actually a cool like Claude hack that
Yeah.
I actually program it into like my main Claude. Like you can sort of set parameters that you have for account wide. And I was like, verify your confidence in your answer. Like give me a number, a percentage of confidence. And if you're not 100% confident, then you need to flag that and
Yeah.
and highlight that to me.
I
And as you
like that.
train
I
it to
like
do
that.
that,
Good.
you'll find that it's like, oh, well, I'm only 75% confident in this number. I was like, wait, you're only 7. Like, what is the missing? Like, what are you missing in order to gain 100% confidence in it? And then it'll start to like self-reflect and think through that piece of it. It's almost like right now when we build AI stuff and we're building like agents all the time for both ourselves and for clients. I like to incorporate what I call a shadow agent. And that's basically like it's like a micromanager over all
Yeah.
of the AI thing that's sit over the top of it, where it's analyzing the output and then going back to sort of its core function and looking at it going, is this correct? And really just grading it on its, and if it comes back and it's like, I'm flagging this, there's not a high level of confidence in this, right? It'll go back to the agent and be like, hey, there's an error with that, or it'll kind of flag that. And so it's kind of this overseeing micromanager that you want to have on your AI tools, and then it inputs that in and kind of helps teach the other agent that what it's doing, and they're kind of learning together. So that is something that you can kind of think through from a structure standpoint when you're thinking about it. Anyway, like, yeah, there's a lot that we could have an entire podcast episode on AI infrastructure and like how to think about it. But
fascinating.
Awesome. It's fun. I think that's where it's kind of going. It's like then it becomes more of like construction of how you think about these agents and these tools more than I mean, yes, you still need clarity on the output, but it's like, how do I structure the inputs?
Yeah.
So that I get what I'm looking for from an output. And that's a different way of sort of thinking about, you usually think about, I'm going to start with the end in mind. I want this output, but actually you have to kind of go back to the beginning. It's like, well, what sort of constraints do I need to put in at the beginning so that I make sure I get the output that I'm thinking about and I get it consistently over time? Because that's what you're trying to measure with, not just randomness.
Right. Exactly.
Awesome. Well, this is a great. Okay, so I'm gonna do one quick round, ask you like 2-3 questions, rapid fire, and then we'll wrap it up. What is the most overrated marketing metric right now, in your opinion, as an e-commerce owner?
The overrated marketing metric is probably return on ad spend.
Agreed. That's a good call out. What is one piece of advice that you could give to a founder trying to grow a lean team?
Outsource smartly. Don't try to do everything yourself, especially if it's not stuff that you're good at. Know your superpowers and then hire people to do the other things.
Love it. All right, last one. What is one customer touch point most brands should simplify immediately?
TikTok. I know it's controversial because there are brands that, made millions, but the brands that have done that are like very few and far between, while the rest of us are just like, why can't we figure it out? And it's a lot of time and it's a lot of effort. Yeah. Sorry.
Love it.
Sorry, TikTok.
Awesome. Sorry, TikTok. You're not getting the love on
You're
this
not
episode.
All that.
You are not the most exciting thing on the planet. You know where I find, like, interestingly enough, the area that I am most like interested in from a marketing channel is Reddit. I
That
think
is brought
Reddit is
so
super
many
interesting.
times. I agree, but the problem is it's interesting for reasons that as a brand you can't really screw with. So like
Exactly.
so as a brand, like I use it as a person, but as a brand, you don't want to be on there going, "Hey, gotta try Mosme." Like that would
That's
defeat the
totally an
purpose.
that's like anathema to Reddit users, and it
Yeah, so it's like
requires you to think about things differently. And I think
right.
that's
I
the
would like to figure out how to crack Reddit. If anyone out there has any Reddit suggestions, please hit me up because it's been on my radar. I would love to figure out how to be smarter about that.
I think it comes down. Well, the first like thing that I would do with Reddit is go sign up for their free pro Reddit account as a brand, because it
Yeah.
enables brand listening. It enables you to kind of look at some of the traffic numbers around the subreddits that are sort of most impactful to you, and that's like step one. Just like
Yeah.
understand what's being talked
Yes.
about, how many, like what are you doing in brand mentions, and then I think it's just like how do you join conversations without trying to sell people.
Right.
And I think that is sort of, and that's a training thing. That's a voice thing. That's like, how do you build that in and factor that into what you're trying to create? And, and potentially you could use AI to build that out over time. It's if you instructed AI to how do you like think about Reddit as a channel. And I mean, that might be a good use case for AI. It's like,
Actually,
go do a
maybe I
deep
will
dive.
try that. Yeah, let's see
I
what
would I
AI
would
can
try that.
do.
Have AI.
Yeah.
This is exactly what I would do. In fact, I might even try this. I was like, AI, write me a prompt, because
Yes.
you can actually. I love asking AI to
Yeah.
write its own prompts.
Yeah,
Write me
exactly.
a research prompt on the best practices that brands are using right now on Reddit,
Yeah.
and
I
just
like
see what it
that.
comes up. It's gonna like do it, and it's gonna generate, and then off of that research, then you can like build especially if you have your own like sort of brand, we call it like a brand bible or whatever for your brand, and it's all in like a markdown format that AI can consume. Like that's the important piece. It has all of the components. So based on our brand guidelines
Yeah.
and this Reddit research, write a message plan for Reddit for our team and how we should communicate our brand on Reddit, right? And then see
I
what it
love
comes up
that.
with, right?
Yeah.
And
I love it.
just test it and see what it comes up with, and just try it, right?
Yeah.
And then like the other angle that I've sort of becoming more and more a fan of is just testing. Try Reddit ads. You can run them.
That's true.
Um, they have ads, and I would be really interested. One of the things I'm trying to determine, and I don't have enough data on it, is so like Reddit does a lot in terms of fueling citations around LLMs, right? So a lot of the LLMs, the Perplexity of the world, the Chat GPTs, the Claudes that are kind of pulling all this traffic, they are looking at all of these platforms, right, to pull what people are saying and to kind of gather the
Yeah.
overarching brand entity. Like that's what AI is looking at. It's like your brand is an entity online. Like we want to pull in from all these different sources. I'm curious to see how those citations from Reddit sort of track and influence
Mm,
over time, and if Reddit ads drive conversation points or promptings or comments or interactions that sort of feed that more effectively. So either way,
that's
I don't have any data to tell you whether it's or not, but I do know what's also interesting, because I saw some data on this, that I think it was something like 39% of Reddit users
hmm
are not on Instagram.
yeah.
Like they don't use Instagram and
Yeah.
social media in general. And Instagram was kind of the lower end. The further you move into it, like
Yeah.
Snapchats and TikToks, the
They're not
number is
really
even
there.
higher, even higher. So
Yeah.
for brands that are only focused on social media, there is a chunk of your customer base that does not participate in social media.
Yeah.
And where are they participating? On platforms like Reddit, right? And
Yeah.
so like having the ability to be fluent there, and then and even running ads there, different than what you would probably run on social, but still being visible, is I think an interesting opportunity in 2026.
Yeah. Love it. That's a good one. I'm going to try it.
Give it a shot. Give it a shot. see what it comes up with. I mean, even at the bare minimum, if you just start seeing how people are interacting with your brand or talking about your
Yeah,
brand
exactly. It's
and
just
getting
social
that
listening,
listening in place. It's
Yeah.
just social listening, and just because there are quite a bit I've had this conversation now multiple times with people like, oh yeah, I go to Reddit and see what other people are saying about brands before I buy it. Like before I purchase, I want to go see what people are,
Yeah.
and not just asking AI, which they're doing that more and more as well. But I want like, well, what are actual
No, you want to ask
humans
real
posting
people.
about it?
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
My daughter uses
Exactly.
Reddit a lot, especially for like her school and like,
Yeah,
get some insider
for
scoop
sure.
from people. And yeah,
And it's interesting because the demographic actually trends younger on Reddit,
yeah, it does. It
which
is
is also
fascinating.
super interesting to me. There was like a couple of years ago, I was talking with a guy who was like recently graduated out of college, and he was like, Reddit is the true internet. Like this is how I view the internet and as its truth.
Yeah,
It's just like a conversation that you can have about any topic with people, not just like marketing spin on social media or whatever. And that
I
was like
know.
his
I
take on it.
think that younger generation is the first one to say like the AI slop is ruining the internet, and
Yeah,
then from
for
there,
sure.
it's like they're going to places like that and getting off of this.
Yep.
They haven't even
Yep.
been on Facebook. Yeah, Instagram too. So
Yep.
it is no, that is 100% true.
So it's interesting how that all will kind of play out. So I mean, as a brand, you just want to be aware of where people are at and what
Exactly.
conversations they're having, and then how do you enter into those conversations without trying to be like pitching something consistently all the time,
Oh
right?
yeah,
And so
totally.
and that's true of social anyway. Like nobody wants to see you constantly pitching something all the time. It's goes back to how do you add value to your customers, and
Right.
and then build that in that brand. But awesome. Well, Lynn, this was a great conversation. Thanks for holding down the
Yeah,
fort while I
thanks.
had connectivity issues.
Yeah, yeah.
Growth
Cool.
is changing. Like the marketing playbook is changing. You laid out some really cool practical tips for people. And it's not just about more traffic and more content. It's about building smarter partnerships, making that customer journey simplified, and using
Yep.
AI in the right way to scale consistency without losing the human part, the human side of that brand. So thanks so much for joining Beyond the Cart, Lane. It was a pleasure
Yeah,
having
thanks
you
for
on.
having me. Bye.
All right. Bye.